those of you who may not know, my name is Daniel Moore. During the 2019 to 2020 year, I was the CAD as well as the tail lead for Design Build Fly at the University of Washington. Today I'm going to be kickstarting my video series on the use of computer-aided design. Now, what is computer-aided design, you may ask? Computer-aided design is the use of computer programs to aid the design process. Originally, engineers would use a lot of drafting techniques, so a lot of pen and paper, to work out their designs. As time went on, we've developed computer programs to aid this process. We can not only create two-dimensional drawings, but we can create three-dimensional models and then use those models of our product, our design, our airframe, and take those models and run simulations and run other analysis techniques on them without even having to build them in the first place. Now, what we're going to cover in this video today is accessing SolidWorks, and then we're going to have a note on Fusion 360. Now, SolidWorks is the primary CAD tool that we use in DBF at UW, but Fusion 360 is also another popular tool that can be used. Now, more specifically, what we're going to be talking about is connecting to the UW IP address and connecting to the mechanical engineering remote desktop, as well as saving files to the U drive. Now, the reason we're going to be talking about these, as we talk about these, is that SolidWorks unfortunately does not have any personal free educational licenses. But UW, and particularly the mechanical engineering department, has been gracious enough to provide a whole group of softwares to students that they can access by connecting to the UW network and logging into the remote desktop. And then U drive is just the location where you can save all the files from the remote desktop and for your UW account in general. With this quick introduction and overview of what we're going to be talking about today, I hope that you enjoy this video.
So before we can use SolidWorks, we want to be able to access it. So what we're going to go ahead and do is search up UW Husky OnNet Big IP Edge Client, and you can find this program on the UW website. And what this will do is it will connect your computer into the UW IP address, allowing you to access all the remote desktops on the UW network. And then they have a bunch of different ones you can do for different operating systems, be it Mac, Windows, or Linux. So once you've downloaded that and installed it, you can go ahead and run it. And you'll go ahead and log in with your UW Net ID and your password. Then once you do that, and once it's finishes initializing and connects, it'll go ahead and close this window. And then you can open up a remote desktop connection. If you're on a Windows computer, this is already pre-installed. If you're on a MacBook, you'll have to download an app for it. Then you'll enter the computer of remotedesktop.me.washington.edu. And then you will log in with the following username format based off of your own personal net ID. Then once you do that, you'll put in your password. So that's going to be your full UW email, whatever your NET ID is, at uw.edu, and then your password. This will log you into the mechanical engineering remote desktop server. And the reason we use this remote desktop server is particularly because it has the most recent SolidWorks program, but it also has a bunch of other programs such as Visual Studio, ANSYS, and other general use and engineering programs. So it's got a wide variety of tools that you can use. So if we go ahead and run SolidWorks, it'll take a minute or two to get it to boot up and start running. So while we do that, we'll talk about the U drive. U drive is your own personal, essentially hard drive space on the UW network. It's where you can save all your own personal files and stuff. Essentially like a UW campus version of Google Drive to some extent. And so when you're on a remote desktop server, you want to save everything to that drive. Now, you can also access this U drive from your own computer as well. You just need to map a network drive from whatever file explorer you have. And you choose whatever drive you want to be called. You put in the following folder address: /udrive.uw.edu/udrive. And then you have to put in this format of your NET ID. So NET ID / and then your actual NET ID. Then you put in your normal password. And what this does is it sets up a folder on your computer to remotely access your U drive. And there you can access everything that you have. Now, you also have to be on the UW network in order to do this. So you'll have to use the IP edge client, or you actually have to be on the UW Wi-Fi network to use it. And the reason you want to save everything you have to this U drive is because after 15 minutes after you disconnect, everything that you save locally to the remote desktop will be deleted, or after 24 hours of inactivity, it'll also log you out and do the same thing. If you don't save it to the U drive before you log out, you could lose whatever data you have. You don't want to save it to the documents folder or any of that on the remote desktop. You want to save it to your own personal U drive. Now we can also see that SolidWorks is now opened after a couple minutes, and we can go ahead and use it. One of the other programs we frequently use for CAD work in DBF, or that is an option to use, is Fusion 360. So on my computer, I already have it pre-downloaded. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it up real quick. Now you can download this from Autodesk. They have a whole suite of different programs you can download, and you can go ahead and actually get a free student license. If you're enrolled at a high school or university, just put in your institution's name, and you can get a free, I think it's a 3-year license. And so Fusion 360 in particular, though, it actually has a pretty decent and simple CAD package put together. It's actually quite similar to SolidWorks in many ways. It's not quite as adaptable to other add-on packages such as simulation and stuff, but you can take what you make and you can frequently use that, either carry it over to SolidWorks, or you can take those files and use it in all the other Autodesk packages that they have. And so here you have in Fusion, similar to SolidWorks, you have a bunch of different projects you may have that you can open up, and you've got all of your toolbars for 3D sketches, modifications and stuff. You also have a history timeline, so you can go back along your work path and change things and carry changes forward so that you don't have to go back and micromanage edits. You can just change what you did before and it'll carry that change through and change in a cascade effect. So that's one of the very nice things about Fusion 360 and about SolidWorks as well. And I will be touching on that in the next short video here, where we talk about direct versus parametric modeling and what the differences are between those two types of CAD programs.
So in this video, what we talked about was accessing SolidWorks through the UW IP network and mechanical engineering remote desktop, and we talked about the U drive. So what we did was we downloaded the Husky on-net IP client, logged into that with UW NetID. We opened up the remote desktop, and used a address of remote desktop.me.washington.edu and logged in with our UW NetID. That allowed us to access the mechanical engineering remote desktop and all of its programs. And then the other programming aspect that we kind of talked about was the U drive, how we could access the U drive on the remote desktop, but also how we could map a network drive to our own personal computers by selecting the drive that we wanted and using and logging in by connecting to //udrive.udub.edu/udrive folder, and then using NetID / and then whatever NetID that we have, and then our password, and that allowed us to map the U drive to our own personal computer so that we could access it wherever we had connection to the UW network, either on its own Wi-Fi or through the IP client. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you'll continue to watch subsequent videos and start learning more about how to use SolidWorks.